Okay, this is quiz 2, question 1. All right, what amount of money invested today at 3.27% compounded semi-annually will have an accumulated value of $672,000 in 7 years from now? All right, I copied that into Word, and here it is. Now let's move things around a little bit so we can see the calculator. All right, so what amount of money invested today? So that means we need to compute the present value. 3.27%, that would be the IY value is equal to 3.27. Compounded semi-annually, so that would mean that PY is equal to CY is equal to 2. Okay, we'll have an accumulated value of $672,000, so that would be the future value would be equal to 672,000. All right, in 7 years. Okay, so let's highlight the pieces of information that we need to do this question here, and we will get it done shortly. All right, so 7 years, so this is also important, and we will be using that. So invested today, so what do we want to do? Well, we'd like to compute the present value. Okay, so that's what we're trying to compute, and we will enter the numbers. So PY equals CY, and that would be equal to 2 because it's semi-annual. All right, so this number here will change to 2. Likewise, this number will change to 2. And here it is for 7 years. So this number here will become 7. And the interest rate is 3.27. So this number here will be 3.27. All right, so we are given the future value of 672,000, and we'll make that the future value. All right, and then we will need to compute the present value. Okay, so that would become the present value, and this number will change here. So let's highlight what we need to highlight, such as these numbers here, this 2 here, this 2 for CY, the 7, that is the 7 years, and 3.27% is the interest rate, and this here, of course, is the future value. And because there are no periodic payments, so this number will be 0. And we compute the present value. Okay, so now we can start. We go to our calculator, we turn it on. Second IY, 2, enter. Go down, 2, enter. And then we go second CPT. Now for the 7 years, we go 7, second, N. So N turns out to be 14. 3.27 is the interest rate. And then we are calculating PV, so we skip over there. We could put in the PMT first, or we could put in the 672,000 for the future value and 0 for PMT. All right, so there we are. Okay, now we can compute the present value, and that turns out to be, well, the negative sign, you can ignore the negative sign, 535,504.58. So this would be the number, that's the present value. I can copy that, and I'll put that in green because it is the answer. And if I go back in here, my present value is the number that goes in there. It doesn't matter if you put positive or negative. Okay, PY we know is 2, CY is 2, N is 14, and the interest is 3.27, payment is 0, and future value is 672,000. And we submit the question and we are correct. Okay, so that is question number 1. All right, so quiz 2, question number 2. Okay, we have a few parts here, and we will do them systematically and get some results. All right, so let's copy first, and we go over here. We go down. So that was quiz 2, question 1. Now we go to quiz 2, question 2. So let's delete that, and we can come in here. So it's quiz 2, question 2. All right, so let's paste, and there we are. Okay, so the first question was the amount of money owed after 3 years. So we have to enter a positive value. Okay, so let's go here, and we need to find that amount of money owed after 3 years. So let's go and fill in our values in here. So the present value would be 6,000, right? And that would be the initial amount. The CIBC Bank 4.57 would be the IY value, 4.57. Okay, that amount is compounded monthly, so that would give us the what? And that would give us the PY equals CY equals 12. All right, so there we are. And that would be the number that goes in there. After 3 years, so the 3 years is important, an amount of money is repaid. She repaid $2,460, so that is also important. After 6 years, 6 years after it was initially borrowed, amount of $1,980 was repaid. All right. Then she pays off the debt 11 years after. So 3 years, 6 years is another important bit of information. So it's 3 years, 6 years, and then 11 years. All right, so 11 years after the money was borrowed. Okay, so there we have it, and then we can start and do what needs to be done. How much money was our final payment to clear the debt? Now you have to do the first part, and that's after 3 years. Okay, so what do we do there? Well, we do what we need to do. We use our calculator and we do the table. We fill in the numbers. We're actually, in this case, trying to find the future value. All right, now CY is 12. So in here, we could probably, let's see if this works. We can put in 12 in there instead. And we might as well highlight it. And here we put in 12 also. And we get it highlighted. All right, so that's PYCY. So then after 3 years, okay, so that would remain the same. This number here is the interest rate, which is, in this case, it is 4.57. So So let's highlight that. That is our interest rate. Okay, because we're putting that number and then we press the IY key. So that's the number that goes in. This here calculates the value for N. So, okay, the present value is $6,000. So 60, and then we go and we delete the 3. All right, 0 for PMP, and then we compute the future value. Of course, this value will not be the future value. All right, so let's do that. So we do second IY, and we put in 12. We hit enter, we go down, we put in 12, and then we hit enter, enter, and second CPT. All right. So after 3 years, so we click on 3, and then we go second and N. So N works out to be 36. All right, the interest is 4.57, and that goes for IY. The present value is 6,000, so 6000 plus minus, that's the present value, 0 for payment, and then we compute the future value, and that turns out to be, all right, let's put it in here. We can get rid of that and then put it in here. Let's give some space. So 6879.87. All right. And then we go ahead here and we delete that part. Okay, so 6879.87. That is what it would be when it's rounded. So let's go back here. Now, after 3 years, so that would be the amount. And that would be the same amount that would be in here. Okay, so PY is 12 because it's compounded monthly. CY is also 12. And here it's 3 years, so 12 times 3 will give us 36. IY is 4.57. The present value, we could put it in as negative or positive, it doesn't matter. We could put it as the 6,000, although positive might be maybe more realistic, but anyway, so let's check and see if our entries are correct. And it turns out they are. Okay, now, an amount owed after the first payment. So after the first payment was, she repaid $2,460. So let's go back here and do that computation right here. Okay, amount owed after the first payment. So that would be equal to 6879.87 minus, what else? What do we put? Minus how much? How much was paid? 2460. And that would give us an answer. So here we go. So this is a future value. If we subtract 2460, we end up with 4419.87. That's rounded. 4419.87. All right, so if we continue up here with this bit of work here, oops, sorry, we are moving in the wrong direction. All right, so I go here and then I subtract 2460. And then what do I have to do? Well, that would become, we could put this as negative and then enter that would become the present value for the next part of the calculation. So we press what? Equal. And then we press plus, minus, and then we press EV. Okay, so then we've moved to the next part of the calculation. All right, so let's do that. And we should have this number in there. So this is another answer. We can copy this and then we can highlight it. Okay, so that is the number that will go in for the next bit of the calculation. So this number goes in here. And if we check that answer, just to be sure, before we proceed, we find that the number is indeed correct. Now that number will also go in here. So even if let's just ignore the negative this time, these numbers will remain the same, PY and CY, so they do not change. But now we are going after 6 years after she makes another repayment. So let's go back in here. So 6 years after borrowing, that's $6,000. Is it? Yeah, $6,000. The future value equal to, and we have to find future value. Okay, now it's how many years. So the number of years, 6 years after borrowing the $6,000, that would be what? So it'll be, we had 3 years before, so 6 years minus 3 years that we did before would be equal to 3 years. Okay, so it's another 3 years, not another 6 years. Okay, this part is important. You have to get that part correct, or else the question will go wrong. It'll go terribly wrong. All right, so what happens here is that we have to continue with this calculation. We're not changing anything except the value for n. Okay, we've inputted the present value, all right, in here. I know it's a bit confusing, but you're just proceeding with continuing the calculation. And now we have to go, we'll put in 3 and then hit second n, okay, and then we'll move on. All right, okay, it's a bit, it's all one long calculation. All right, but this 3 here is for section number 2. So let's change the color so that you don't, to the turquoise, so we know that that is part 2 of the question. All right, so here we are. So what's the future value? Well, we just need to do one thing more on the calculator, and that is to put the 3 in, and then go second n. Okay, it works out to be 36, right? Because the last one was 3 also, and you have another 3. But the present value changed. Remember, it's no longer 6,000. It's $4,419.87 if we round that. So now we go and we compute the future value, and that gives us the answer for the second part. That turns out to be 5068.01. All right, so this is the answer for this after 6 years. Okay, so I can put that in. So this is after 6 years. Okay, so I'll just put this in parentheses. This is not on your calculator, of course, after 6 years. Okay, that's the future value. So 5068.01, so that number goes in right into 5068.01. Okay, we can make this smaller so we can see the calculator also. 0.1. Yes, that is correct. Payment is still 0, and it so happens because it's another 3 years, this will also be 36. This number here will not change, so the interest rate is still 4.57. Okay, so the amount owing after 6 years is indeed 5068.01. All right, we can go and check our answer. All right, let's go down. All right, we're getting a little bit of a problem. And then we will go down now. And we can submit and see if our numbers are correct, and they are. Now the amount owed after the second payment. Now there is a second payment, and we are asked to enter positive values. Okay, $1,980. So after 6 years, that's the present value, which is the amount that's owing after 6 years. So the future value is 5068.01, right? So now we have another amount owed. Oh, sorry, I guess this should be, we should be able to copy and paste, and that amount would be equal to what? Well, we take the 5068.01, and then we subtract 1980, and that would give us some number. So this is the future value. So we subtract 1980, and we get this number here. And that number will become, okay, we could put plus minus and make that the present value for the next final part of the calculation. So 3088.01. Okay, that is the amount owing after the second payment. So after the first payment, all right, of this amount, there we are, after the second payment, all right, of $1,980. Okay, so 3088.01. Now, what we would do here, of course, is the calculation continues. So we subtract, there's an amount that was paid, and that amount was 1980. We press equal, and then we'll get an answer. Okay, and that answer now, we could make it plus minus, as we may want to do, and then we press PV, okay, and that gives us next result. Okay, now that is now it's after 11 years the debt is supposed to be paid off. Okay, so if she pays off the debt 11 years after the $6,000 was initially borrowed, how much should her final payment be? Okay, to clear the debt. So that is 11 years. Now remember, we went from 3 to 6 now to 11. So after 11 years, all right, this is the amount after 6 years. Okay, that's the future value. So now after 11 years, okay, 11 years after borrowing $6,000, so we will have what? 11 years minus 6 years. And that would be equal to 5 years. Okay. You want the future value, correct? Yes, would be equal to some number. All right. So it's now 11 minus 6 because we've gone 6 years. Okay, so that determines the value for n. So if we go back, all right, sorry, okay, so that's the value for n. So if we go back to the question over here, okay, so what is owing? Well, it's owing 3088.01. All right, and that should be correct. So let's say we don't bother with the checking, and then this PY is still 12, CY is still 12. Now it's 5 times 12, so this should be 60. And this is still 4.57. Right, that is the interest. Present value now is this number right here. Okay, we could copy and we could paste that number in there, and this would be 0, and then we calculate this number right here. Okay, so we will go to the calculator. All right, let's see what we need to do. What do we need to do? Well, we have this in there, so next we have to change the value for n. So we put 5, and we go second n, n. And then we 5 second n, n. Okay, let's open up some more space in there so we don't get confused. And then we do what? Well, we compute the future value. All right, and then we should get an answer. So 5 second n, n, and we compute the future value, and we get a 3879.06. Right, so that would be the answer, and hopefully we are correct. So that would be 3879.06. So that is the number that should go in here. And the final payment, that should also be the final payment, correct? Yes. So let's check if all of that is correct, and it is correct. All right, so we started there, and then we finally came to the final payment. So the future value is indeed 3879.06. Okay, so the final payment after 11 years to clear the initial debt of $6,000 is how much? 3879.06. Okay, so this is your number here, 3879.06. That is that answer there, and then this one here, this is the answer there. Okay, so that is question number 2. All right, let's go now to question number 3 and see what comes up there. So next question. Okay, this is one that has to deal with dates. So you have days between dates. That is what this DBT represents. Okay, so let's go and do this one. So I copy and then I will paste it. Okay, so this question is what? Well, it's quiz 2, question 3. Right, so here we are. Round the future value to 2 decimal places. Okay, and we have the days between dates. All right, so that's a new feature that we have to deal with. Okay, so we will take care of this shortly. I will go back to that and show you how it's done. Now, this amount was deposited, so that is indeed the present value, and we could put it in as negative 37700 was deposited. Okay. Into an account. What would be the future value of this sum of money on June the 8th, 2023? All right, so there we are, 2023. The interest rate is 2.67%, so that is IY is equal to 2.67 compounded quarterly. So compounded quarterly means that that is the PY/CY. PY is equal to CY is equal to 4. Right? And that is that. So let's go. All right. So how do we do this? Well, we do what we know. This one here will become 4. This here, that is for PY, and this is for CY. Okay, so 4 and 4, and there we are on our way. Okay, so next, what is in line? Now we have to get at N. Now we have dates. So I will show you this. You will actually enter it as 2.2920. Okay. And this here, June 2023, will go in as June the 8th. So we have the day, the month, and the year. So we go for the month, which is what? The month is 6. All right. The day is 08. We have to put in that 0 there. There's good reason why. It's just how the computer works. Okay, so that 08 has to get in there somehow. So let's use a different color just to distinguish. We've had a lot of yellow, so all right. So how do we do this on the calculator? That is the big issue. All right. Now let's go to the calculator. We can clear the second IY for enter. We go down. Sorry. We go down CY for enter, and we go second CPT. Now we have to enter the dates. How do we do that? Well, we have to go second, and then we're looking for date, and that is number 1. Okay, so in here, we have to wipe this out for now, and we go second, and then we go 1. Okay, that is our first date. Now, the first date must be the one, the earlier, as in this case, February 29, 2020. So how do you put it in? Well, we have to put the month. The month we don't have to put 02. We can if we wish. It wouldn't matter. If you like always putting in a 0, then that is okay. But you see, it didn't matter. Then we put the decimal. Then we put the day. The day is the 29th of February. And it's 2020, so we take the last 2 digits to 0. All right, so it's the month, decimal, the day, the 29th, and then the last 2 digits of the year, 2020. And with that, we put enter, and there you are. The second month, the 29th day, and the year 2020. All right, good. Now we've gotten that far. Now we have to insert the, 2.2920. All right, and then we press enter. Okay, so now we get the next date. We have to go to the down arrow. It comes up. There we go, down arrow. And then we have to put in the next date. Now the next date is June the 8th, 2023. So the month goes first. June is the 6th month. But the day we have to put in the 08. You cannot just put in 8. You will get a wrong result. So 08 and the year is 2023. The last two digits are 2 and 3. So we put in 2, 3, and we hit enter. Okay, 6th month, which is June, 8th day, 2023, there the 08. So it does matter in this case. All right, so enter, down we go, and then we put in 6.0823. And we also put in enter. All right, and that will do that job. All right, so we still have more to do. So we go to the down arrow again, and we get we have DBD, and that we will do by pressing CPT. Okay, and that will put us into the right positioning. So we press CPT and we get a result of 1195. All right, now, if you're following the question on the computer, then we put in the 1195 because that is one of the required answers to see if we have subtracted the dates properly to get the right result. So the answer is 1195. But my suggestion is to write that answer down. Okay. We could do computations as it is, but it's best to leave this mode. So we leave the mode. We know how we leave the mode. We go second and we go CPT, and that will get us out of there. All right, so 1195 is the number. Now we could put it into memory and recall it, but anyway, just remember that number is there. So we go second and sorry, I think the calculator is not responding properly. Okay, there we go. Second, there you saw the second show up, CP, and we're out of there. So what we do is we go back and we enter that number 1195. If you're not sure, and that's exactly why I told you to put it into the box where it's in the question, 1195, so we know that number is correct. Now we have to do something to it. This is in days. It's days between dates. So we have to take this number and we have to divide it by 365 to get the number of years. And we can press equal. Okay, so we put in 1195. We divide by 365 to get it into years. So that is the number of years. Okay, and as we know what to do, we go second NN, and that gives us the number of years. Now, you should not round that answer. That is the reason why, if you look in here, there is no request to put in the value of n. Please do not round the answer. All right, that is the answer for n. That is the correct answer for n. So let's leave it at that. All right, the interest, how much is the interest rate? 2.67. We have it right up here. Okay, so this number here, we can just use it, 2.6. All right, maybe it doesn't like that, so we'll erase it, we'll delete it, and then we will put in the 2.67 for n, 2.67. That's the value for IY, sorry, not n. That is the value for IY. All right, so how much money was put in? 37,700. Okay, so let's go down and we can go over maybe to the next page. 37,700. Was that the number? Anyway, we can always recall the present value. No, is that right? It doesn't look right. Anyway, I guess we didn't put in a number. 37,700. Okay, we have to put that number in, 37,700. And we plus minus, and we put that in as the present value. Okay, the number that showed up there was from the previous calculation. Okay, so let's come up here and let us do what we need to do. And we can go now and compute the future value. Of course, this would not be the result. All right, so we have everything. Oh, sorry, 0 PMT, that is important, 0 PMT. We must always put that in, compute the future value, and it turns out to be 41131.93. Okay, so that is the answer. I'm hoping that would be correct. Maybe you should also highlight this 0 there to complete our calculations. The future value would be there. The present value is 37700. The PY and CY, it is compounded quarterly, so that would be 4. That would be 4. The interest rate is 3.67. PMT is 0. Let's submit the question, and we are correct. Okay, so that is how this question is done, and I will stop here with the 3 questions and leave it.